Good morning, and excuse my appearance. This is April the 17th, tax day. And this April always reminds me of something I always revisit. And the reason I revisit it is because in this nation, uh, the old conflicts of the past keep coming back. And from generation to generation, the old hatreds and wrongs. And I don't want to see my children or your children or any of our children, grandchildren, or great grandchildren to have to suffer like our ancestral cousins did 150 years ago, approximately. And I want to read this to you. This is published. I published this on sunshinedixieland.com, the prose page, and it is called "Rape of the Southern Witch" by Stephen the Plebeian. In Roman times, the plebes were, they said, they were necessary. They were just common people. They weren't slaves. They were just common people. And what were they good for? Procreation and paying taxes. And that, that don't seem to change over the times. That's what working people do in this country, procreate, bring about a new generation, and pay their taxes. Anyway, well, bear with me. I haven't read this in a year, but I'm going to read it now, and I hope you enjoy it. If this iPhone will cooperate and do what I want it to do. Rape of the Southern Witch by Stephen the Plebeian. There was, of course, a wicked witch of the East, a wicked witch of the West, and the, quote, good witch of the North. But I do not believe that anything at all has been written about the Southern Witch. This must be an oversight among the pundits of letters, not to please them or the critics, but rather to rectify my own to pacify my own eccentric philosophical wandering. I have racked my poor plebeian brain for many years, searching for a favorable means to rectify this loss to American literature. This silence concerning the Southern Witch, period. Today I discovered what I considered to be that remedy. Today I was fleeing the capital of South Carolina, Columbia, in a 20-ton rig. This iPhone 8 bugs me. It'll drop the screen when I'm standing here reading it, and I gotta lock it in some kind of way so it'll quit doing that, or this reading's gonna be crap. I have racked my poor plebeian brain for many years, searching for a favorable means to rectify this loss to American literature, this silence concerning the Southern Witch. Today I discovered what I considered to be that remedy. Today I was fleeing the capital of South Carolina, Columbia, in a 20-ton rig, pushing the powerful diesel engine of my truck to its limits, fleeing because I was very much in danger of arriving late with the freight. In my line of work, I'm retired now, but then in my line of work, driving for UPS, arriving late is considered next to criminal and punishable by next to corporal means. We do guarantee on-time delivery of all packages, and the company will accept no excuses for tardiness from any driver. Even acts of God such as earthquake, fire, flood, or hurricane must be substantiated and the driver must call in immediately with credible evidence, including witnesses, or he may not be held blameless. That's still true today. Even though I work for United Parcel Service of America, it's now just called UPS Worldwide Delivery Service, but I'm sure the same stuff applies. I was headed east on Interstate 26, out of the hills toward the low country, and Interstate 95, which would take me south to my destination, Jacksonville, Florida. My jukebox, AM and FM radio, was tuned to South Carolina Educational Radio. They were broadcasting live from the South Carolina State House. The good senators were debating a proposed bill to remove from the Capitol dome that most loved and hated symbol of the long dead, but most certainly not forgotten Confederacy, the Stars and Bars. The date of that debate was April 12, 2000. On April 12, 1861, 139 years earlier, Southern forces fired on Fort Sumter in Charleston Harbor. Actually, they demanded surrender on the 12th and began shelling early in the morning of the 13th. Most history books credit that event as the beginning of the war between the states. On April 12th, 1865, that conflict ended. The Stars and Bars came down in South Carolina and all across the South, temporarily down in the years of Reconstruction and Northern retribution. Mostly down, except in some backwaters where it rose up persistently, obstinately, waving on a warm and rising southern wind. The Stars and Stripes were raised again, that reverence banner under which slavery was a fact of law for 89 years. The Stars and Stripes, yeah, okay. The Union was preserved, and the cost in human life was 600,000 American souls, brothers and cousins and kinfolk. We don't want that to happen again, okay? Nobody in their right mind would want that to happen again. That was a costly war. Costly, costly, costly. The bloodiest war in all history. Slavery was abolished, but not until the South was decimated. Not until her major cities were shelled into submission. Not until Sherman had marched across Georgia with his battle-seasoned regulars, slaughtering the old men and young boys, black and white, of the Home Guard. Not until he, Sherman, had spared the city of Savannah, some say for a substantial sum of money, before turning north to exact a, quote, righteous vengeance on the people of South Carolina. We're going to pause right there. Okay, we got to pause right now. The sun is up and it's shining right in my eyes, which tells me I got to go feed up. I got a baby calf out there in the morning feed. And I'll have to continue this reading a little bit. I'll be back. Okay. We're a little more presentable now. We fed the calf. He was hungry. Drank half a gallon. It's only about 55, 60 pounds. She, little heifer calf, red heifer. The only one we got on this 20 acre of grass right now because her big sister run off and headed for greener pastures, I guess. And she jumped the fence, went to the neighbors. The last time she was seen was 9 o'clock Thursday morning. This is Tuesday. She's been gone almost a week. Aunt Jean says if you don't find her in a week, you're probably not gonna find her. I said, well, it won't be a week till Tuesday morning at 9. Well, she jumped the fence probably about 8:55. Took her 5 minutes to get in the neighbor's backyard and get spotted, which he called. He called Justin down the road. Told him he'd come down here and look. He couldn't find her. She kept on trucking, I guess, you know. But I told Aunt Jean, well, it won't be a week until Thursday morning at 8:55, 9 o'clock. And she says, no, you're wrong. It'll be 7 days. It'll be exactly a week, 7 days. Wednesday morning. I said, well, that don't sound right to me. She said, well, you're wrong and I'm right. Okay, fine. But anyway, I'm hoping we can find her. She's a blonde hided. Her hide's kind of a blonde, tawny blonde color. Honey blonde, whatever you want to call it. And she got a bald, what we call a bald white face. She's crossed between Angus and a Charolais or whatever they call it. And she runs and jumps like a deer. If she hadn't got caught up in some kind of trouble. But we've looked all Doe Run Creek, Chat Dumps, other side of Chat Dumps, Buck Mountain Road, all the way down Hildebrecht to Pendleton Road, down Pendleton Road. Everybody's got cows up and down there. We've told them she's out there somewhere. And Aunt Jane said, we're going to call her Fancy. And I said, no, we ain't going to give her a name unless we get her back. Now, Russell might have found her somewhere. And she might be barbecued by now. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I don't know that would happen. It used to happen around here occasionally, you know, in these hills. Probably some of our ancestral cousins, you know. Some Hildebrandt boys, and he married into the Hampton family. He married a Hampton, and so that's the fellow that Clint Eastwood made that movie Outlaw Josie Wells. Well, they based that kind of on Hildebrandt and his dealings with the Jayhawkers and the John Browners, who came out of Kansas before the war ever started, probably a decade before, came into southern Missouri, called them Redneck Riders, and they were supporting the Union in the war that was coming. Everybody knew it was coming. And but before it started, they were over here raiding in the name of the Union. Because they knew them Southern sympathizers kept threatening to succeed, and the Mason-Dixon line cut right through the middle of Missouri. If you look on the East Coast, Pennsylvania has a straight border, and if you extend that imaginary line across the country, it cuts right through Missouri. And symbolically, you know, they use that to say, well, you know, them Southerners boys, and down south, there were slaves on some of this property right here, around here in Pendleton Township. Matter of fact, there's a slave cemetery right down the road. Yeah. So now there were Southerners around here, but then Missouri was split. We actually had a Union appointed governor and an elected who was not Union. He was Southern. You know, Missouri was split. Brother against brother, cousin against cousin. Yeah. But anyway, I don't know if there's any of those rustlers around, you know, but that could be, you know. a beef is beef. And that calf weighed 189 pounds when I bought her. Paid too much money. Because old fella kept trying to outbid me. You know, I knew I wanted her because she looked good. That fine little heifer, weaned, ready to eat grass and calf supplement, you know. And I said, well, I'll get her. And I bid on her quick, and the old boy kept bidding. And as soon as he bid, I'd bid again. And he finally gave up. But he got the price from 145 or 150, I forget. About 150 a pound up to 185. So, you know, I paid $400 for that heifer. And I might have donated her to the cause. Somebody might need some beef, and, you know, somebody out there hungry and they see that heifer and they realize that she's a stray or a maverick, and they feeding the family, that'd be fine. But call me and tell me what's going on. I mean, you know, I'd understand. But the reason I'm back to continue this reading of, this is April the 17th. We got a 2-day extension from Uncle Sam. Bless his heart. I mean, I appreciate it. We didn't have to file for 2 days. And deadline. And we ought to call our congressman and thank him for allowing that. You know, Congress is in charge of the economic situation. Your state Congress, your federal Congress. And yesterday was a government holiday. It wasn't a holiday here, but it was a government holiday. And so then 15th was Sunday. They don't make you file on Sunday or deadline on Sunday. So they gave us a 2-day extension. I appreciate it. Of course, I already filed mine. I file mine just as soon as I get the paperwork. And I'd get very little money back because I don't want to get a bunch of money back because I don't want the federal government holding my money off. And it's my money. It is. I don't want them holding my money for 12 months or whatever. But I want to get back to the reading of Rape of the Southern Witch because the conflicts of that century and a half ago are still here. And the hatred and all of that has been carried over. Our own fault, all of us, the citizens of this country. It's our fault. And our children and our grandchildren, if we're not careful, they'll pick that up and carry on with it. And eventually, it'll flare up again and it'll be bloody and costly. And we need to stop it if we can. And the way to stop it is for everybody to say, hey, come on, this is enough. And we need to tell our public servants, federal, state, and local, we need to stop this stuff some kind of way because it's not good. It's not good for the nation. It's not good for anybody. But anyway, I want to get back to the reading. I've got to be able to operate this iPhone without it shutting off and losing my place. So it should come right back up. This is published on sunshinedixieland.com, and you can read it there under the prose page. You go to the left and look down, you'll see prose. Go to prose, then you click on Rape of the Southern Witch. You'll see a picture of Liv Taylor there. But, you know, she's an actress and she's played witches, you know. But anyway, that's just, I like Liv and I like to use her to illustrate this. But and if you got an iPhone, you can read it on there, but you got to be careful. It'll drop off the screen. And I'm going to start right back at the beginning because I lost my place when the sun came up and started shining in my eye. Rape of the Southern Witch by Stephen the Plebeian. And I've already explained that. That's old Roman language for common people, not slaves, but common people. And their only real purpose was, the only good they were was procreation and taxes, paying their taxes. And that hasn't changed. That republic admitted it, or some of the folks did, and this republic needs to admit that's what we are, the majority of us. Working people who procreate and pay taxes and keep everything going. Everything. All the money comes from us and goes to the big house. Okay. There was, of course, a wicked witch of the east, a wicked witch of the west, and the, quote, good witch of the north. But I do not believe that anything at all has been written about the southern witch. This must be an oversight among the pundits of letters, not to please them or the critics, but rather to pacify my own eccentric philosophical wandering. I have racked my poor plebeian brain for many years, searching for a favorable means to rectify this loss to American literature, this silence concerning the Southern witch. Today I discovered what I consider to be that remedy. Today I was fleeing the capital of South Carolina, Columbia, in a 20-ton rig, pushing the powerful diesel engine of my truck to its limits, fleeing because I was very much in danger of arriving late with the freight. In my line of work, used to be, I'm retired now, in my line of work, driving for UPS, United Parcel Service of America. Nowadays it's called UPS Worldwide Delivery. Same people, I guess. Younger people. Arriving late is considered next to criminal and punishable by next to corporal means. We do guarantee on-time delivery of all packages, and the company will accept no excuses for tardiness from any driver. Even acts of God, capital G God, such as earthquake, fire, flood, or hurricanes must be substantiated, and the driver must call in immediately with credible evidence, including witnesses, or he may not be held blameless. I was headed east on Interstate 26 out of the hills toward the low country and Interstate 95, which would take me south to my destination, Jacksonville, Florida. My jukebox, AM/FM radio, was tuned to South Carolina Educational Radio. They were broadcasting live from the South Carolina State House. The good senators were debating a proposed bill to remove from the Capitol dome that most loved and hated symbol of the long dead, but most certainly not forgotten, Confederacy, the stars and bars. The date of that debate was April 12th, 2000. On April 12, 1861, 139 years earlier, Southern forces fired on Fort Sumter in Charleston Harbor. Actually, they demanded surrender on the 12th and began shelling early in the morning of the 13th. Most history books credit that event as the beginning of the war between the states. On April 12, 1865, that conflict ended. Amazing. The stars and bars came down in South Carolina and all across the South. Temporarily down in the years of Reconstruction and Northern Retribution, mostly down except in some backwaters where it rose up persistently. obstinately waving on a warm and rising southern wind. The stars and stripes were raised again. That reverence banner under which slavery was a fact of law for 89 years. Yeah, not under stars and bars, under the stars and stripes. You got to remember that now. The Union was preserved, and the cost in human life was 600,000 American souls. Estimated 600,000 deaths. You know, I don't know how many casualties there were. You know, a lot more. The bloodiest war in our history. Slavery was abolished, but not until the South was decimated. Not until her major cities were shelled into submission. Not until Sherman had marched across Georgia with his battle-seasoned regulars, slaughtering the old men and young boys, black and white, of the Home Guard. All colors. It didn't matter. You know, your color didn't matter. What mattered was who did you support? Who were you loyal to? Not until he, Sherman, had spared the city of Savannah, some say for a substantial sum of money, before turning north to exact a, quote, righteous vengeance on the people of South Carolina, burning homes, schools, and churches, robbing, butchering, destroying the slightest semblance of resistance, raping women and children, black and white, through the low country and the midland hills to the capital. This was the first instance of total warfare in the history books, I think. And it happened right here in the South. Total warfare. There was no, in the South, there was no such thing as non-combatants. In the eyes of, you know, they wanted the South to surrender. That's why they enacted total war. And if you read The Art of War, that's in there. So they didn't come up with it. Not until Lee surrendered his half-starved, ill-clothed, shoeless, bootless, lice-plagued, dysentery-infected army of Virginia and Appomattox. Not until all of the above was accomplished was slavery then abolished in all the states and territories of the United States of America. It was not until the centennial celebration of that infamous conflict in 1965, in memorial to the thousands who suffered and died on both sides, that the stars and bars were raised again over the Capitol Dome of South Carolina. No one took much notice at that time. The nation was caught up in newer conflicts and endeavors, the Civil Rights Movement, the beginnings of the Vietnam War and protests, the race to put a man on the moon, or men on the moon, the yearly assassinations of presidents, preachers, seemingly yearly, and political candidates, and the assassinations of the assassins. No one seemed to notice that all across the South, incorporated into state flags, flying over state Confederate memorials, and the stars and bars were waving again on a warm and rising southern wind. As I listened to the debate concerning the removal of the Confederate flag, or the Confederate battle flag, that's what they were upset about, because people misused it. Yeah, people don't really know what it was, the history, you know, they used it for, you know, rednecks running around, you know, flying that Confederate battle flag and saying that, you know, they were white supremacists and all kinds of silliness. Anyway, as I listened to the debate concerning the removal of the Confederate flag, I was very much impressed by the oratorical skills, the impassioned rhetoric, and the sincere conviction of those senators who argued on either side of the issue. From their detailed speeches, I learned a great deal about the history and the heritage, the honor and the character of the good people of South Carolina. As I listened to them speak with eloquence about the blood, the sweat, and the tears, the sacrifices made by both sides during the war and the Reconstruction years, through the Depression era and the years of the Civil Rights Movement until the present. As I listened, I began to realize that these good people would come to a civil and just conclusion to this matter, a conclusion that would benefit all the good people of South Carolina, regardless of outside pressures or influences. Just north of the Savannah River, the radio signal began to fade. I turned off the static and drove along, listening to the low rumble of the truck's diesel engine. I rolled down my window, enjoying the bright April sunshine and that warm and rising southern wind. Now down south, it's warm and rising. Up here, it's cold. But we're just below this Mason-Dixon line. Bonne Terre is a few miles north of here, and the Mason-Dixon line comes in down here somewhere. And I was born in Bonne Terre. I don't know. I'd have to draw it out on the map, but I think Bonne Terre is south of it. No matter. I mean, you know, I'm close enough to southeast Missouri to claim Southern heritage. Where was I at? Y'all forgive me, I lose my place sometimes. Just north of the Savannah River, the radio signal began to fade. I turned off the static and drove along, listening to the low rumble of the truck's diesel engine. I rolled down my window, enjoying the bright April sunshine and that warm and rising southern wind. I could feel it in every fiber of my being, coursing through my veins, beating in my heart, just as my ancestors surely felt it many years ago when they crossed the wide Atlantic to settle in the low country of Hampton County, South Carolina. I drove along thinking about all I had heard that day. The ghosts of the low country began to speak to my soul. Slowly my mind began to compose a poem about that tenacious arrogance, that rebellious, undefeated spirit of the South. A poem about that glorious, honorable, gracious, and beautiful spirit that simply will not die. And it shouldn't die. Here's the poem. Down east of Eden, and south of old Oz, in a land so real, some say it really ne'er was. 3 hags sat sewing the fates to a stitch, and singing the rape of the fair southern witch. Singing the rape of the fair southern witch. There was Ida the ignorant, and Donna disease, Helga of hunger, all sisters of sleeves, and bent o'er the frame to quilt hate and wrong. Hideous they hissed and cackled this song. A stitch to the east, a stitch to the west, violate her flesh and ravish her breast. O come, hell's soldiers, O come, bloody gore, vitiate the witch and take her to whore. Vitiate the witch and take her to whore. Then Ida the ignorant, gifted with sight, saw on the plain one bold southern knight, astride a steed emaciated and poor, the last of his creed, champion of yore. His lance, tradition, honor, his sword of wars, his banner tattered, rag of the stars and bars. Then Helga and Donna refrained, Aman, aman, let us starve this fool till his bowels run water. Let us slay his sons and sack his daughter. Let us plague his flesh with pestilent sore, till he hates the witch and curses the whore. Till he hates the witch and curses the whore. Then ignorant Ida refrained, "It is done, it is done." They brought out the witch, cast her down at his feet, belladonna of the South, once lovely, gracious, pure and sweet. He lifted her up, kissed the dirt and the tears from her eyes. His heart beat with love, with passion, for her the hags despise. He is Beauregard. He will not bend. He will not bow. He lifts up his head. To all men, mankind, he makes this vow. Dear God, be my witness, as I swear, by the blood of my fathers, that has soaked this lovely ground, that I shall not lift my voice or my hand on this fair day, on any day, to bring that most precious banner down. Down east of Eden and south of Old Isles, in a land so real some say it never really was, or really ne'er was. 3 hags sat sewing the fates to a stitch and singing the rape of the fair southern witch. Singing the rape of the fair southern witch. Stephen Wayne, 4/12/2000. Copyright Sunshine Dixieland Company, 2003, renewed 2018. And the sad part about all this is, if we're not careful, our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren are going to suffer from this again. And we don't want that to happen. Nobody in their right mind in this country, north, south, east, or west, of any color, any shade of color. Human skin is one color, very light to very dark, and it's variations in between. And it's meaningless, it should be meaningless in the eyes of the law, before the law. Martin Luther Jr. King said, look, it's not the color of your skin or the shade of the color of your skin. It's the color of your immortal soul, your human soul, your spirit. That's what counts. And you reveal it by your actions. And if you're stirring up trouble and pitting citizen against citizen, and if you're a public servant in high office and you don't do something about this, you're going to regret it. And your children and your grandchildren regret it. So come on, let's do better. This is Stephen Wayne, SunshineDixieland.com, presently in Pendleton Township, Del Run, Missouri. Y'all have a good day wherever, and enjoy this April sunshine and the warm and rising southern winds, and send it up here for us. It's not getting it. There was a heavy frost this morning and cold, bitter wind. Anyway, y'all have a good day. I love all you guys everywhere. Not because I'm supposed to or because I have to, it's because it's the right thing to do. Read the book of love and you'll know that. Or listen to your parents, or your grandparents, or your great-grandparents if you're lucky enough to have them around, and they'll tell you. Consistent truth, that's what matters. And if you get a chance, go to sunshinedixieland.com and you can read my writings, listen to my music, and one of my youngest called it, one of the grandyoungest called it Grandpa's Reality TV. It's good, bad, beautiful, ugly. It's just what it is. Two little buckaroos.